Hello and welcome to the latest Royal Roundup from TalkTV. So pop the kettle on, this is the Royal Tea. I'm Afua Hagan. Coming up on today's show, Harry and Meghan will apparently stop any more TV criticism of the royal family. Could reconciliation be on the cards? Plus, could Prince Harry have his visa revoked after the revelations that he took drugs in his memoir Spare? Well, joining me to discuss all that and much more are Royally Us host Christine Ross, The Sun's former royal editor Duncan Larcombe, and royal commentator Rebecca Twomey. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are to stop appearing in Netflix shows criticising the royal family and will instead only feature behind the cameras. A source claimed that that period of their life is over, as there's nothing left to say. Duncan, Prince Harry alluded to this already when he was doing the press run from Spare. He said that, the look back projects were over and now is the time to look forward. And now we have this splash on the cover of The Sun. Are we surprised to see this?
I think it'll be a relief still for the palace to see that headline. I think they probably wish it was 3 years ago they saw it, not now, because you're right, what is there left for Harry and Meghan to say in their criticisms of the royal family? It might be an indication really of just how maybe their brand, the slagging off, is just, they've got some new people involved and maybe they're just finally waking up to the idea that they're making themselves more and more unpopular every time they do this.
But Rebecca, has the damage already been done? That's the big question, isn't it? How do you go back from this?
Well, I think there's been a huge amount of criticism, particularly towards Meghan Markle, which I always feel the need to defend. But what's very interesting is this has come out as I think they're listening and they're learning. We see it a lot, I think, with Meghan's behaviour in that when Harry's promoting Spare, that autobiography that some people love, some people hated. But with that, she really went behind the scenes. She didn't make it about her. She wasn't at King Charles's coronation. And I think with that, what Meghan was really doing was listening to the response in the US and in the UK and saying, okay, people don't like how we're behaving, let's change our behaviour. And I think they're to be applauded for that. They are listening and they are trying to make amends now.
But there's also a sense that, when Meghan does perhaps take a step back and let Harry take the limelight, then we get the rumours of, they're getting divorced and they're going
Meghan can't do
separate
anything
ways.
right, can she? Whether she does something or doesn't do something, everybody wants to blame Meghan for everything. And everyone thinks, poor Harry, she's corrupted him. But as we know, Harry is a strong-willed character and he doesn't need Meghan to tell him what to do.
Absolutely. But Christine, we are still going to see content from them on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've heard so many rumors about this massive Netflix deal, which didn't just include their, sort of personal story. We know that they're taking part in a docuseries with the Nelson Mandela Foundation, where they will be either hosting or introducing these segments with powerful people. So there's a lot still going on from Team Sussex. They're definitely not going away, but maybe what we're going to see is some actual impactful work from them rather than playing out the same old story.
So we think that, last week the rumours of a Netflix film dramatising what happened during Brexit, that's on ice?
I would probably think that's on ice for now. I would hope it's on ice for now.
Yes, I would hope so too. So we've also heard this week that Prince Harry said he wanted out of the royal family years before Brexit and didn't want the monarchy to be just a bunch of celebrities. Rebecca, you do a lot of celebrity reporting.
I do.
Don't you think we kind of have had that crossover already, that the royal family kind of are turning into this celebrity family?
Of course they are. They've always been a celebrity family. Back way back in, when the royal family first started. They're the original celebrities. Yeah, and they have all the markings of celebrity. They have loads of key characters. They have loads of terrible relatives that do terrible things. Let's not go into all of those right now. But there's so much controversy. People marry in, people, slate them. That's what makes it so interesting. And because in the celebrity sphere, we have so many reality stars now, we haven't really got that many A-list, real untouchables, something to really aspire with, the mega wealthy, the mega attractive. And that's what the royals deliver. And I think part of the narrative is that we just really love to hate someone. And Meghan plays that part very, very well, because we have to have polarising, the good, the bad. And we've already got, Kate Middleton as our perfect princess. And we have to have the Wicked Witch of the West. And Meghan has to occupy that space. And that's what I find so fascinating about the royals and celebrity.
And it does seem that Meghan is the villain of this piece. But it seems that Prince Harry wanted to leave the royal family or leave, the institution, the firm, well before Meghan was even a key player, a main character. So what does that tell us?
I started reporting on Prince Harry's life when he was a teenager, and even then it was fairly obvious that the one thing he absolutely hated the most was the attention that he got for being a royal. And he would do things like go riding in a motorbike where he's got the crash helmet on, spend the day, so that he could feel like nobody knew who he was. In the military, he was one of the lads. Harry's lusted after the opposite of the life, the little boy dreaming of being a prince in a castle one day. Harry was in the castle dreaming of being an ordinary person one day.
But this is the thing, doesn't it seem that, Harry has got his wish, his dreams come true, as it were. He's left the royal family, but yet he's vilified for that and is taking Meghan down with him.
Well, I think it might be, is it the way that he did it? Is it the manner in which they revealed all these secrets? No one really likes seeing other people air dirty laundry. Well, we like it, but we pretend we don't, right? We love it, but we have to pretend. We have to pretend to chastise Harry for airing his family's dirty laundry, even though we secretly love it. And I think there's a lot of criticism, again, directed at Meghan. Meghan's always the villain in this, when actually Harry is a grown man who's made his own decisions. And we did see inklings of this before Meghan came on the scene. I think Meghan was just the catalyst, maybe not even the catalyst, the support that he needed to make this huge life-altering change. I mean, he's basically broken down his entire life, and now he's building it back up in the way that he wants to live it.
That's what concerns me, is that actually I don't think that the life that Harry has rebuilt for himself since he left the royal family is, if any, in some ways it's worse. It's more limelight, it's more focus on him, it's less freedom than, you only have to look at whatever happened in New York with the paparazzi. That hasn't gone away. He hasn't escaped the life. He just hasn't got the support of the royal as an institution, and he's at loggerheads with his entire family by the looks of it.
Well, do you think that a reconciliation is completely off the cards? I mean, you said that he is at loggerheads with certainly his father, King Charles III, and of course, Prince William, the Prince of Wales. Is a reconciliation just not an option now?
I think a reconciliation is always possible. I mean, blood's thicker than water, isn't it? And headlines like this, where Harry puts a sock in it, if you put a few months, might even be a few years go by, and they've made a life for themselves in America which isn't based on selling the family silver, it's possible. I mean, we have to hope that. Harry was such a popular royal when he was here. People loved him. Question is, can people fall back in love with him ever again?
But they let Prince Andrew still hang around with the family and take, a key role effectively in the family, so they can forgive Harry, surely.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much they've
forgive Harry.
Forgiven Prince Andrew yet, but yes, you're right. Yeah, I mean, there would always be a place for Harry in the royal family, I think.
Do you think a reconciliation could happen?
I think it's always on the cards. And actually, we heard recently from sources that if Harry came back to the UK, he'd be welcome with open arms. But the interesting part of that story is that it omitted Meghan entirely. I think that the family would welcome Harry back, maybe even welcome Meghan back, at arm's length, but would the British people welcome them back? And would they really have a better experience than they would have had before? I mean, they were such a golden couple. People were so optimistic about the power that they could have, the impact that they could have. Things, played out as they did, and now I don't think that there's ever a chance of them coming back and being welcomed in any way that they were before.
Well, only time will tell. But questions about how the Duke of Sussex was admitted to the United States despite his past drug use will be raised in a federal court next week as part of an effort by a conservative think tank to obtain his visa application. Now, my first question with this, Christine, I'm going to come to you on this, is could Harry's visa really be revoked? And then my second question is, who has time for this?
I mean, I think from a very cut and dry legal perspective, your visa can always be revoked. There's lots of ways that the US government can find a reason for you not to be there. It's said to be a privilege to be in the United States. However, is it likely? I don't think so. I think this is quite a big time waste. What's happened is this think tank has sued the US government because the US government denied their Freedom of Information request, which is an act that allows members of the public to access government documents. And it is a massive time waster that is making a lot of headlines. But I certainly don't have time for this in my day-to-day life. I mean...
Well, Duncan, we know that Harry is going to travel for the court cases that he has coming up, so he will come back to the UK. And there could be a situation where any sort of border control officer that has read a copy of Spare could stop him and say, no, you're not coming in. My American accent is amazing. I know. I'm sorry, Christine. I can only apologise.
Can I answer this in my normal accent?
Yes, please.
I suppose there's a chance. I mean, the rules are the rules, and if Harry, it might be more of an issue of if he's actually been misleading on his application rather than being as honest as he was in Spare. But I think I agree with Chris. I think it's extremely unlikely that will happen. It would be a huge blow to Harry if he had to move back to Britain because of he opening his big mouth in his book.
Rebecca, Prince Harry deported. That could be the headline.
I mean, I love that
on
headline. I would love him back in the UK, and I would love Meghan to come back with him. Firstly, how many court cases can one man have in tandem?
Legal bills.
I mean, he must be very stressed.
Honestly.
But I wonder if he's losing his hair. He's got a lot of stress in his life right now. What's interesting though is, did he lie in the book? Did he lie in his visa application? Or was he given preferential treatment? And that's the thing. And if it looks like he's been lying somewhere, it's not good for Harry, because I think he's trying to make himself a bit cooler. In that book, Spare, trying to be more interesting. We've already heard about his frostbitten penis. That was the main takeaway.
I was really hoping you would bring that up, Rebecca.
Do you have to mention that on visas as well?
Yeah, I wonder if you have to list that on your visa application. Visa applications have changed, haven't they? Well, let's see what happens. Well, William and Harry had a secret meeting with Princess Diana's butler, Paul Burrell, back in 2017. That's according to a royal source. Anybody here? It was apparently a very low-key meeting with someone who had been close to their mother and felt there were aspects of the princess's life they believed Paul could clarify for them. This happened in 2017. And I'm quite surprised that this happened because both princes, especially Harry, in Spare, were very critical of Paul Burrell because of the book that he wrote all about Princess Diana and his relationship with her. How do you think this even came about in the first place, Duncan? You laugh.
I'm laughing because I think what's most astonishing about this story is that for a few years, Paul Burrell's managed to keep his mouth shut about a secret meeting. That's a very out of character for him. No, the boys worked on the principle of one strike and you're out. And as soon as Paul Burrell wrote that book, that was it. There was no second chance. Very interesting to see that they did, because of course, whether Harry and William like it or not, Paul Burrell was very close to Princess Diana and may well be able to have answered some private questions that they clearly had.
Christine, what were those private questions? What do we think was said?
I mean, I imagine, the boys they were teenagers when their mother died. So you have to think about the things that children and teenagers, they don't really ask their mum, So these might have been, more adult questions. Well, what did she think about this? Well, what did she think about that? It might have been bigger picture things, religion, family. What did she hope that our lives would look like? Because when you are an adult, you have such a different relationship with your parents, with your mother, and they wouldn't have been able to ask those sort of adult questions.
Rebecca, like Duncan said, Paul Burrell kept a lid on this for a good 60 years. Do you think there could ever be a point where you have Paul Burrell, Prince Harry and Prince William back in a room together?
Absolutely not. I'm amazed by this story. It's fascinating, and I think you're all being very kind. I think it was a warning shot. I don't think it was a lovely meeting about how their mum might have felt. Maybe some of that came up because this is a man who betrayed their trust, and they've said it, on the record. What I think probably happened is, look, this is a really big happy moment for Harry and Meghan. Don't ruin it for us. And actually, a lot of the commentary he was doing was very positive. He did say how much Diana would have liked, Meghan, and, he said some really lovely, kind things. I think that meeting was, watch what you say or we're coming for you.
The Prince and Princess of Wales surprised royal fans by arriving in Jordan for the royal wedding of Prince Hussein and Raja Al Saif. It's the first international major royal event for the Prince and Princess of Wales. Now, in the past, the then Countess of Wessex and Prince Edward have attended several royal weddings, such as Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden back in 2010 and Prince Albert and Princess Charlene's wedding in Monaco in 2011. Rebecca, how significant is it that we've got the Prince and Princess of Wales out in Jordan for this particular royal wedding?
Well, from a celebrity angle, I just love the fact that all different royal families support each other. But on a much wider scale, it's really interesting to see them actually getting straight down to business on the global scale in somewhere like Jordan. A lot of Jordanians actually, they've got quite a good relationship with the royal family there, compared to obviously what's going on in the rest of that part of the world. So it is really nice to see them united. And also we saw so many different nationalities and dignitaries at the coronation it's really nice now that we kind of maybe give some of the other royal families across the globe a little bit of attention, because we do steal a lot of attention as British royals, I think.
We do, definitely. Christine, they've left the 3 kids at home, good for them. And we're really seeing the Waleses being put to work, aren't we? How significant is that?
Yeah, I think this is an incredible step because specifically it is half-term break. And in the past, historically, the Prince and Princess of Wales have been with their family during school breaks. There's been some criticism towards that. And they are there sort of representing the royal family while the kiddies are at home, probably with Granny Carol Middleton and their nanny. This is, I think, a huge step for them because normally it would be the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, sometimes Princess Anne, and the royal family has faced criticism that they haven't sent higher ranking royals. So for it to be the very glamorous Prince and Princess of Wales, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to showcase them on a global scale. Not that they need any more, I mean, they're huge, but it's an act of good faith, I think. However, Prince William is really good friends with Crown Prince Hussein, and the Princess of Wales obviously spent time in Jordan in her childhood, so this was just a dead easy, good PR decision.
Yeah, definitely. But Christine's alluded to the fact that the Prince and the Princess of Wales are experiencing uber popularity at the moment. Very glamorous, can't put a foot wrong. We discussed it a little bit last week and it was in the headlines of, you know, Princess Catherine perhaps overshadowing the king. Is it that, or are we seeing, you know, this new royal 4 being put forward as the future of the royal family?
Yes, I think what it is it shows, when you remember the photograph that was released after the coronation, where apart from William and Kate, the rest of the working royal family is getting on a bit, to say the very least. I think it's a sign of just how much pressure William and Kate are actually under now. All eyes are on them, whether they like it or not. They're going to overshadow the king very easily, just with the glitz and the glamour that they bring as a couple. Fine if they're happy with that, if they're comfortable with that. But charging all around the world, spending weeks away from their children, after a while, that's going to take its toll on them. So I think there's great. The coronation was a fantastic success. And set piece things like the attending foreign royal weddings are a success. But beware of how much pressure that puts the 2 of them under in their private life.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I for one can't wait to see the outfits. That is what I'm here for.
I hear there's a rumor of tiaras.
Oh,
I know, something to look forward to.
You know I love a good tiara.
I know, yeah.
I should have worn one today. But speaking of tiaras, the crown jewels are going back on display in the Jewel House at the Tower of London. A multi-million-pound high-security refit means that the 20,000 people who visit the crown jewels every day will be able to get an even closer look and from every single angle. We saw some absolutely amazing jewels on display at the coronation. They're all going back into high security, including Penny Mordaunt's sword, which I would like to carry and do some weight training. But something like this is really, really important to keep people interested and connected to the history of the monarchy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the ultimate bling, isn't it? I've been lucky enough to have a private viewing round the Tower of London a few years ago to look at the crown jewels, and I don't know if you've been, but it is mind blowing, and the security, the doors that are that thick, solid steel. But I think after the coronation, we actually haven't seen them on display publicly in that use, particularly things like Penny Mordaunt's sword. People want to go and see that now. So I would expect that that's part of the whole, what we pay for having a royal family, we get back in having tourism. That whole argument.
Oh, Rebecca, you're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head?
First.
No, why are you shaking your head there?
I think it's terrible timing. I mean, it's a wonderful part of our history. I'm pro the royals. But I think maybe showing that in the middle of a cost of living crisis isn't necessarily the best thing to do. The amount the coronation costs, the amount of security costs, of course we need to protect them, of course we need to restore it, and we're very good at restoration in this country. But I just think, is it really the right time? And what I think, there are some parts of the exhibition that do nod to the controversy around some of the crown jewels, you know, the Koh-i-Noor diamond and what more. I think maybe they should possibly rebrand it a little. Yes, we should keep the classic pieces to look at, but also remember that there is controversy and to acknowledge it and acknowledge our part of that.
But Christine, you know, Rebecca's talking about a cost of living crisis and, you know, some of the crown jewels are controversial, but isn't this a good opportunity to capitalise on perhaps the tourism that it brings in. You know, you've got thousands of people, 20,000 people a day, I think it is, will be able to see the crown jewels every day. That's got to be a boost for tourism, right?
I think so. When you look at it from an economic standpoint, you think about tourism, you think about, I'm thinking about all the Americans who are going to flock in to see it. And there is, because the coronation is so fresh in our memories, there's going to be huge allure to go and see those crown jewels. That money goes into protecting the crown jewels. It goes into the Historic Royal Palaces organization to sort of protect and preserve these historic places. And it's a huge boost for the UK's tourism. I mean, it's an undeniable economic marker that the British royal family brings in a significant amount of money. Now, detractors are always going to say cost of living crisis, the cost of these things, you know, it doesn't reflect real people in Britain. But a lot of people actually also see it as escapism. It is a bit of a fairy tale. You can sort of separate real life from this fairy tale British monarchy that we all look up to, but really the tourism is undeniable. I mean, it's even coming in today, all the tourists, they're already coming in, they're here.
And we've had talk that Buckingham Palace, perhaps in Balmoral, could be turned into museums for royal enthusiasts. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. I think there's a lot of talk about the state of Buckingham Palace, and I think a lot of people, while they might be critical and they might have, negative thoughts about the monarchy, they also don't want to be the ones responsible for Buckingham Palace closing its doors and turning into apartments. Luxury condominiums. Some developers, got their eye on that. But I think turning these into museums, it makes it more accessible to the people. It's something that's available to the people, albeit at a price tag. There's a ticket entry cost, but it allows the people, whether that's tourists, whether it's British people, to feel a connection with the history and with the monarchy.
Half-term holiday makers returning from Nice were stunned to spot royals Mike and Zara Tindall on their Air France flight. The couple came home in economy class on Monday morning, having been abroad to watch the Monaco Grand Prix on Sunday. Christine, returning home in economy class, we do it all the time. Are they the most down-to-earth royals ever?
They really are. People love them. I think Mike Tindall as well, who came from a very sort of masculine rugby player sports background.
And has that great podcast
He has, well, his podcast is amazing. He gives us all these little royal tidbits. He just talked about how, the coronation was great and all, but actually he had a terrible view and had to watch it on the telly like all of us. And it just really, really, it's that connection. They're down to earth and yet still so untangible. Yes, he watched it on the telly like the rest of us, but his telly was in Westminster Abbey.
Exactly. So not like the rest of us.
But not quite like the rest of us. But I think people really like them. They do normal things. They take their kids to the horse trials and buy ice cream cones. And it is really relatable and nice to see.
Yeah, it's true. Rebecca, you're sitting next to Mike and Zara Tindall in row F.
I have actually
in
once
economy.
accidentally stole her wine, but that's another story.
That's the story I want. What would you say to them if you were sat next to them in economy?
I think, firstly, I would be, the journalist me would be putting my phone on record and seeing what small talk I could make. But what I would say is, I like my royals to be superstars. I want them on a private jet. I want them in, all the finery. I think they're absolutely brilliant. I think the main reason they flew economy is probably because it was the Monaco Grand Prix. All the private jets are fully booked and there was no first class flights out of there. But I do think the two of them don't really care. And that's what we like about them so much. And that's actually credit to Princess Anne, because she made the decision for, her children not to have titles. And I think she gets pushed to the sidelines, but it's actually her parenting and her decisions that have raised this wonderful woman who's got a hobby outside of the royal family and married actually quite a fun guy that we all really like.
And an Olympian.
Yes, that's phenomenal.
Right.
Yes, thank you. She
Gold medal.
just mess around.
But you're absolutely right. We do forget that, don't we? There's some incredible achievements there.
Mike Tindall, I love Mike Tindall. I think he's brilliant. I've always thought that. And when he first came back from the Rugby World Cup, I had to introduce him to one of the Sun's then Page 3 girls, because he was the only.
You had to.
He was it was my job. he was the only single rugby player in the World Cup winning squad. In fact, he wasn't single. He was actually then seeing Zara. They just met. So we thought we'd take a Page 3 girl and try to do matchmaking of our own. And of course, the Page 3 girl got gazumped by royalty. But no,
if you're going to be gazumped by anyone, yeah.
My murky past, I do apologise.
We need more of that.
Okay.
And I'm going to want that wine story as well, Rebecca.
Yes, after this.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. My massive thanks to Christine, Duncan and Rebecca. If you want to join in with the debate, make sure you leave a comment. We'll be back next week with all the latest on the royal family. Hope you can join us. See you then.